Okay, hello. Tyler Bryden here. I hope everything is going well. I'm recording this on the last day of 2022. I've put together a little series of videos, sort of wrapping up. I like to do this a little bit of a reflection. I've got goals for 2023. That's what I'm going to be talking about today. If you didn't check it out, I also did what I'm grateful post here. I'm scrolling all over the place, and also some predictions for 2023. So I made some articles about those, some videos if you're interested in that. But what I wanted to jump in specifically today was my goals for 2023. And I've talked about this a little bit before, but I have this Google Sheet, which I think is super interesting. And it helped me sort of set goals in a more structured way that are very sort of concrete, and you know when you've done it right, you know when you've failed. And so it has sort of, and I'm not sharing it directly on the screen, but basically has sort of the goal, the deadline, the percentage of that is accomplished, the days to the, so then it's cool. It sees also your the days to the deadline of when you set that date, and then what age you're going to be at it. And then there's a priority level too. So, if I look and I say, hey, I have this year ahead of me, I have 10 goals, but these three specifically are highest priority. I can make that assessment and maybe switch on the fly or prioritize and deprioritize because maybe that was too much to take on. And so in this video, I used, for this article, I used that Google Sheet filtered by 2023. And I've said, here's what goals that I, in a previous iteration said that I wanted to accomplish. I also made some iterations on those goals as I was putting together this article. And in my grateful post, I talked about some goals that I had achieved that I was unsurprisingly grateful for. In this case, what I'm doing is sharing these goals publicly. It's revealing. It feels vulnerable. It feels like there could be possibility of shame if I don't accomplish these goals. And then there's some really interesting research around why you shouldn't share your goals publicly. And I'm always, I've relatively been this sort of transparent person. But I heard this before and I wanted to do a little bit of a deeper dive. So I actually put this in the article. And the main gist is you get premature praise when you share your goals. So that makes you less likely to follow through. You also get this sort of, dopamine rush. And so you can sort of relax. You think, hey, I've at least shared my goals. That's something that's pretty impressive itself in its own right. And one of the other interesting notes was about the sort of idea of you share goals publicly because it puts in accountability. But in most cases, say me doing this article, me doing this video, sharing these goals, maybe, you watch this, and I really appreciate you if you do watch this or you read this, but there's not that much of a threat of failing to follow through. And so, what they talk about in the article, and I've got all these linked here for you, you can check them out, is that fear is what drives accountability, and fear often comes from a painful consequence if you do not achieve that goal. And maybe that's some sort of financial setback or personal setback, or maybe it's just shame and embarrassment. But that's a sort of crucial part of the recipe in making sure that you actually achieve goals. So I'm thinking about that. I think about how I can punish myself, how I can make more fear and build them into these goals. And I think overall, I'm trying to come from a point of, okay, well, I'm sharing these goals publicly. I'm almost going against this advice, but at least I have the awareness and I've spent time assessing why this may be detrimental and then how I can then counteract it. Trello shared a couple pieces on this. I think they were super interesting about why you should not share goals publicly. So possibility of negative feedback. Generally, negative feedback doesn't dissuade me too much. And I think generally if you set goals and a couple people giving you feedback dissuades you, maybe that wasn't the right goal to begin with, or you sort of need to reassess your motivation and why you're trying to accomplish it. Fear of competition, that was sort of another interesting insight. If you give some feedback and someone says, hey, there's already X doing this, or, blah, 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 you might just say, well, I guess I should quit and not do this goal. And so there's that piece. And then there's this idea of, and I think they elaborate a little bit more on it in this great article, but personal versus sort of process. If I can find it, person, let's be smarter about this, Tyler, could decrease. So this idea of related to the individual, so feedback related to the individual instead of the actual method taking. And so super interesting. Check out that article if you're interested in it. what Psychology Today recommended, and I linked this as well too, is instead of just setting general goals, they do recommend to keep goals private, but to set implementation goals instead of those sort of overarching ones. And so I actually took that to heart. And while I have these overarching goals, I put an implementation layer into it. And I also put a blockers layer into these goals so that I could say, okay, here's what I need to do to implement these. And these are the actual sort of action items or tasks that I need to do to achieve this overarching goal. And here's the possible blockers that will emerge in this period. And I think there's constant iteration, there's learning that will go on from this, but I think it's super, important to think about. A couple other last things they sort of said about this is set monthly progress updates. You could probably even do more regular than that, but that's a good one. Quarterly is also really nice. And then convert distracting events, things that could distract you, into cues to help you sort of refocus and stay on target. And obviously I'm doing this as a sort of goal setting exercise for myself, but I'm hoping that this creates value for you and in your own sort of journey and in your own goal setting, that maybe some method emerges from this, chaotic life and madness that is myself. But, I'm always on the search for better ways to do this. And maybe there are some insights to help you set your goals and achieve those goals. And that's my goal here today. Wow. Loop. The part that I also wanted to touch on is this idea of manifesting. And, people, we can talk about the woo-woo, we can talk about all of that stuff. But I do believe that there is this energy flow in the universe that when you put something out there, and maybe it's not even as abstract as that. It's like you put this out there, maybe someone who has capacity to help you reads it and says, wow, I'd like to help. And then there's the more energy version, which is like, you put it out there, the universe seems to take that energy and then send it and share it around in some way. It can come back. And I've seen that happen many, many times in life. Often it's not in the exact timeline. You're a little bit impatient. You want to accomplish those goals quicker than they might actually happen. But I do believe in that force. I believe in that power, and that power that I believe in overwrites, I think, some of the risks associated with sharing goals publicly and the lack of motivation. I think it's up to me to be motivated and to make sure I'm selecting the right goals. And if I do that, then those challenges aren't going to emerge in the same way. I will say it is scary to do this. It can lead to embarrassment. But I think J. Cole says this beautifully. It's like to aim high, aim high. If you land low, at least you aimed high, and you're probably higher up than if you never aimed at all. So I think that's something really beautiful. I wanted to touch on one thing from the manifestation layer too, which was Jack Harlow is making that song Dua Lipa. Apparently now they're dating. I know this is very material things, but I think that if that's true, man, that's manifestation. And I think that's sort of a hilarious example of doing that. And we've seen that over and over again with artists sort of manifesting things through music or art. And, it's such a strong force. I think it's hard to ignore. Quick disclaimer, there are some things that I'm not sharing. I think these are just personal things that if you knew what they were, then you would also be like, yeah, you probably shouldn't share that. They're, I think in the future possible to share, but for now I'm not sharing them. So I'm starting with personal goals. I realize these are not in order of priority, so that's just the way they are. And I split it into sort of personal and then professional goals, and that's probably even maybe too limited of a scope. I think you should add, there's other ways to tackle this, and there's sort of spiritual, and other sort of layers that you can bring. But for me, one of them big ones is 10,000 subscribers by the end of 2023. I actually originally started with the goal of YouTube monetization, but that was a goal in 2022. I failed to reach that goal, but I got close. I got 3,000 views, 700 subscribers. I'm about 2/3 there, over 2/3 of the goal achieved. And so if I think that I put that as a goal in 2023, and I think this is something to ask yourself, is like, is this an ambitious enough goal where there is some sort of fear of failing? Because if I look at the trends and the data, I should accomplish this as long as I continue to creating. And so that's sort of the first milestone. That milestone is YouTube monetization, 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 hours of watch content, and no active community strikes. And I think that should happen in early to mid 2022 if I keep creating good content. Hopefully this is part of that. However, so far in these series, on sort of these grateful predictions, less sort of content, and it's not optimized for search or anything, but I still think they're valuable videos, and it's a great way to build relationships with you. And I mean, that's what I'm doing here. I'm not just all optimizing for search and traffic kind of thing. So I got a lot of work to do. Now, one thing I hate, I'm using Elementor on my site here, and it breaks out my bullet points. These were beautiful bullet points with spacing and everything, but I sort of talked about this implementation layer, and so a big drive of that is to improve video quality. I'm not going to touch on anything, otherwise this video would be, I'm already at 10 minutes, so I got to be careful here. Improving video quality, so with that sound, camera, the background, green screen, white screen, black screen. I think there's some things that I can do there. It's writing a script before filming, getting a video editor, intro and outro graphics, clips for TikTok, which TikTok I have some reservations about, but can still drive sort of, some huge growth and adoption of your content, and then better banners, titles, descriptions, all of that good stuff. The blockers in that set, and this is sort of laying this out, I think, trying to do the best of this is I'm going to India at the start of the year, could disrupt filming, but I could also utilize that successfully. I could run out of ideas and inspiration to continue creating. I could do content that gives me copyright strikes or content bans. I've had one little warning here already, and that was an accident. And then poor research and decision making around content. So I could just make bad content, which is ideally not what's going to happen. And the stretch goal, this was interesting. I didn't do this for, I don't think any of the other ones really, but was like 100,000 subscribers by the end of 2023. I need to get some love from the algorithms. I need to do a lot of these things that I talked about from the implementation layer to make that happen. But, I've seen a great friend and creator, Nicole Conan. Check her out if you want, especially on TikTok. Awesome videos of her like chopping wood and making some real cool stuff during that. And she's just shot up in popularity because of those videos. And so I think improbable, that stretch goal, but possibly feasible. A couple, as I move on, that's the YouTube layer. The invest 10% of earnings each month. And I think this is something that many of us are recommended and strive to. I actually don't know exactly how I ended up on the 10%, but I'm not doing a good enough job of it. I've got money for the first time in my life, and I want to use that money in the right way. If you don't have any money, that's a problem. And then you have money, and then that's also a problem because you're not really sure what to do with it, and you're trying to maximize the utility of that cash. And then it's a super interesting environment that we're in right now. So for me to do this, I need to get a financial advisor that I can trust and actually is willing to work with me. I need to make an actionable plan. That's sort of bullshit terms, but that's true. And I think a big part is once I make the commitment to that plan, the autopilot, so that it automatically happens each month, so I'm not manually doing it, creating a friction point, is super important to do that. And so I think any one of us who are, hoping to go down this investment path, and it was obviously a tumultuous year in 2022, but maybe 2023 is a good opportunity. And how can we set that on autopilot, average down as we put those investments in, and where should we put our money? So I could just not proceed. I could get overwhelmed with data and just decision paralysis, likely. In some cases, that's what I'm very good at doing. But I hope that I can persevere through that and come back to you with some results from next year. So a couple other things on this sort of personal finance side. 10,000 Canadian a month after taxes. Some people would say this isn't ambitious enough. I like the after taxes part. I think that's an important part of this because taxes are huge in Canada here. And I've achieved this in multiple times in my life. I don't even exactly know where I am right now because I sort of toggle up and down depending on where we are with Speak AI. But I'm predicting a close achievement of this goal, but possibly not surpassing it. So certain events are going to have to configure to make this happen. And I've got some work to do to do it. And so from the implementation layer, we'll see some of these repeated. So I'm not going to touch on all of them. I'd like make more sales at Speak AI. That's definitely works. Successfully raise investment at Speak AI. And I'll talk about that a little bit professionally. Diversify income. So I think all of us here who want to make more money, we need to diversify how we make money. So I'm obviously working as a owner of the business at Speak AI. I do some sort of consulting and marketing work to generate revenue and try to do it in the right avenues. And then I'm also looking at real estate, other investments, and how can I do this? And so in overall, I also need to optimize how I use that capital and the way that I interact with it so that my tax profile is as optimal as possible. And I think that's something that we all strive to do. So if I'm unable to raise funding, reduce expenses, drive sales, and reach like break even or profitability with Speak AI, that runway will decrease. And so I could end up in a situation where I need to reduce my own salary. And then there's this interesting conflict that could emerge where I have this personal goal and then I have this professional goal with Speak. And those could start to conflict directly with each other. And so that's when prioritization really starts to happen. And that's when, tough decisions are often made. And so that's something that can possibly emerge here in 2023. And something I'm not fully prepared to deal with yet. So as it gets closer, and hopefully it doesn't get closer, I'm going to have to figure out. A couple other sort of layers on the personal one is make $1,000 from affiliate sales. This is a goal that as I'm creating content, I'm trying to figure out. We've got an affiliate program at Speak AI. I'm sort of discounting that in this regards. I'm looking more at sort of my personal YouTube channel that I'm doing here, that I'm creating this video and watching, and also like driving affiliate revenue from like Amazon, web hosting, other software platforms that I can do. And so there's an implementation layer here is signing up for good affiliate programs, inserting links throughout the content, doing product reviews, creating high quality content, and then just increasing that audience size, because you need to create high quality content that audiences will then use to purchase, to recommendations. And I think also there's a way to like create a web page for every product that I sort of buy, say on Amazon. If I bought that product, I believe in it. I did the research. I spent way too much time researching. So maybe I should do that and then add the affiliate link. Now, the one thing that I would say is that you can screw up with poor affiliate programs, but more it's not pumping your content full of affiliate recommendations and tarnishing your reputation, your content quality is something that I've seen many people do. Unfortunately, something that I don't want to do. And especially in this early stage, it doesn't really make sense. It's not the ideal thing that I want. So on this goal here, talking about increasing net worth. At one point, this was that I, sort of striving for a positive net worth. I have this indecisive solution or like sort of resolve of where I am on this. So positive net worth overall with no sort of personal liabilities, but I also have a mortgage, which is a substantial mortgage, and then also a lease on a vehicle. And so those are payments. There's other payments that I'm responsible for, but some would say, hey, your mortgage, your house is an appreciating asset. Don't count that in that. But when there is a mortgage on that, that's debt. That is something to think about. And, considering the housing market, the interest rate environment right now, that is actually sort of a concern. And so, we do have this belief that considering the location, the quality of the house, the immigration that's happening in Canada, that if we hold on this property for long enough, it will appreciate and pay off. But that isn't as certain as a belief that was maybe held at the start of 2022 or maybe the end of 2021. And I sort of talk about implementation layer on this. You just I think in the end, it's like remove expenses that you don't, invest in assets that appreciate, don't lose money on your investments, take a salary that covers all expenses and leave room for that investment, and then diversify the income streams there too. I think in the end, it's just like make more money than you spend. And this goal, sort of making 200,000 Canadian personal income, sort of aligns with that after-tax piece. And again, a little bit of conflict here between personal and professional. And just as, for your reference, it's like when you're in the stage of the company that I'm in, it doesn't necessarily make sense to draw that much of a salary out of your business. A lot of, investors would say don't do that. But as a founder, you have responsibilities. You're trying to pay for your mortgage. You're trying to build a family. You're trying to make investments. So there's this dichotomy and sort of conflict and tension in that. And so again, depending on how we execute with Speak AI, there could be a conflict within that personal goal here of income versus the reality of what can be done through Speak AI. And in that case, diversified income streams need to be done. Investment needs to be raised. And there may be other ways that revenue needs to be generated. So I'm at I'm sort of switching gears a little bit. This is still personal, but Hindi fluency is something that I want to increase. I don't know what percentage I want to be fluent, so I don't have that clarity on it, but I've been using Duolingo 100 days today. Super excited about that. I feel like my grasp of the language, the structure of sentences, the ability to pick up words and phrases from conversations has improved. But I got a long way to go. And as soon as I talk to someone who's actually speaking Hindi, I black out, forget everything. So I got some work to do, but the goal is to keep my Duolingo streak alive when I'm in India, to just immerse myself in Hindi, practice as much as I can with Monica, use Google Translate, which is an amazing tool. And then I think one thing that happens when you're trying to learn a language is you're like scared to say things because you feel like you're not pronouncing it right, or you're not doing it right. And that fear blocks you from learning. And I've had that discussion with a couple other people, one friend who just moved to Germany. And so, I need to commit and I need to try and I need to not be embarrassed. And maybe I'm pronouncing things wrong. If you can try, then that's better than not trying at all. So I'm at 19 minutes already. Oh my God. Fitness and well-being goals. Let's do it. 15% body fat. I'm fat right now. I'm sitting between like 22% and 26%. I'm leaning on that higher end after Christmas. So, I mean, from the implementation layer, and I have sort of these all grouped together. First of all, I need to do some of these measurements up front so that I know exactly where I'm at, and then have a process to be able to measure and make, see that difference. So there's the 15% body fat, 30-inch stomach width, and then 195 in terms of weight. That's sort of my ideal weight profile that takes me back to my hockey days. Cut, lean, strong, and I think is healthy for me. So to do that, then I've set up this implementation layer, because that's a great goal to have. But if you don't have the tactile ways to achieve it, then you're just setting up goals that you're not going to achieve. And so I need to run 3 kilometers at least 3 times per week. I'm doing that. I have been doing that. I had a little toe incident, but that's now gone. Heavy weights, I think, is a super important part of this. So 3 times per week for that. So that means that I need to actually drive to a real gym where I can do squats, I can do good bench press, and just instead of just sort of the small weights that I have to house, really focusing on those heavy weights. That's a super important part of getting to the muscle density that I also want, which maybe should be a goal. I'm pretty good at fasting, but I'm drinking a lot of chai in the morning. That's very heavily milk-based. So I'm sort of breaking my fast and just bringing a bunch of bad stuff into me right in the morning. So I got to stop that. I've got to stop eating after 8 p.m. and then I've got to drink 4 liters of water per day. All of those are, important sort of implementation layers for me to achieve that goal. Now, in this regard, I've got a blocker here, which is this continued food and sugar addiction. And I'm fighting it. I'm fighting hard on it. And I'm also an emotional eater. I lack inhibition when I'm traveling and at events, and I need to get over that. And so, this is a super difficult thing that I've struggled with for many, many years. And I'm trying to figure that out. And I think there's actually maybe some mental work or some therapy work that needs to go into that to make it successful. So I'm spending some time on that in 2023, and hopefully I can come back with some of these goals achieved, and you'll be seeing a better looking, healthier version of myself. That's the ideal in the end, is better health-wise, better well-being. I didn't touch enough on some of the spiritual layers of elements that I want to accomplish in 2023 in this, but I think that's an important one. I need to crystallize some of those goals. Some of those are set up for 2024, but you can't just have a year without any spiritual work, any healing work. So I will be working on that. And so I was thinking maybe I should break this into 2 videos. So I'm going to actually end this here, and I'm going to do personal goals for 2023. I'm going to stop recording, and I'm going to fire this up. And so if you're interested in professional goals that I have here at Speak AI, and you're interested more in that layer, I'll have a video and I'll break those 2 apart so you can check that out. This was sort of my personal goal layer. I hope that you got some sort of insights out it. I do have some super interesting. I'll jump forward and just sort of close this out with some fun time, which I think is, these are goals that I said without fear of failure or embarrassment. And I think while these goals above that I've shared with you, especially on that personal layer, are real goals, there's sort of this realism layer, there's this practicality, there's fear of being overambitious, and the shame of sort of stating these unrealistic goals, especially within this timeline, are all sort of prevalent. And so I want to share a couple goals that I, truly have that, are scary to share, but that I think are true. They're honest. And so one is to pay off my mortgage. I believe that's a version of financial freedom, and paying off a mortgage is a big version of that. And that's a significant task that I have to do. And, along with that goes, and, it feels weird to be so materialistic in this regards of making $1 million personally in a year, but money is time is freedom. The idea of being a millionaire is a valuable goal, sort of instilled from the time, we're young and growing up. And I have things that conflict with what it takes to accomplish this, but overall, it's still a goal that I have, and it allows me to accomplish these other things that are part of my life. I also said I want to get 1 million subscribers on YouTube. And I think that I have this core belief in YouTube. I think it's a powerful thing. There is this vanity metric to it, but I think it shows that I'm actually capable of creating something valuable in this world, and that there's a meaningful audience who likes that content. And at the core that they like me. And if you're watching this video right now, you've stuck with me for 24 minutes of personal goal setting, then that means a lot to me. Truly does. And then lastly, on that big one, and I probably have so many of these dream, stretch, vision goals, whatever they are, but it's to travel to 3 countries in 2023. So 2022, the travel bug got delayed, before the pandemic. It never sort of really, these goals that I had around travel never crystallized. Before that, I was in a basement, heads down, not really doing anything. And this year in 2022, I was able to do Burning Man. I was going to go to Portugal for Web Summit, Oakland and San Francisco for FounderCon. In 2023, I'm going to India, and there's other few trips that I hope may emerge. So I'm really focusing on not trying to be overwhelmed when it comes to travel, and just understanding that, enjoying the experience, not worrying about like losing productivity, and that these are important moments in life are realizations that I'm continuing to try to build and instill in me, and I think are very important to a life full of success and lack of regret when you finally move on from this world. So these were my personal goals for 2023. I hope you got some insight, and hopefully, some things around sort of the challenges of sharing goals publicly, the ideas of manifestation, the opportunity to build implementation in, and not just having the goals, and then even maybe identifying blockers that will emerge. And I look forward to sharing a video for you on professional goals in 2023. Thank you so much for checking this out. I hope you have a wonderful end of 2022 and an amazing 2023. Bye-bye.